Hodorowski's Dune, George Miller's Justice League, and Korgoth of Barbaria. What do they all have in common? They were all great pieces of media that never saw the light of day. In this series, we'll uncover hidden gems lost to time, and examine the legacy that would have been of shows that never were, all in the singular pursuit of finding the best show never made. In 2007, Nickelodeon hosted a special called Nicktoons Network Shorts in a Bunch. This basically gave them the opportunity to showcase a ton of pilots all at once to gauge the public perception of their behind-the-scenes projects. A total of 6 pilots premiered on the network, but sadly none of them ever became actual shows. Only one of them really stuck out to me, though, an action-themed cartoon called The Modifiers. This show sort of combines the superhero and spy genre together in a very lighthearted and fun way, and I loved it. The trouble was trying to find it again after 15 years and having only seen it one time. I spent a very, very long time trying to track this show down because I had so little to work with that I didn't even remember what the characters' names were, let alone what network it was on or anything useful to help me figure out the title. It got to a point where I wasn't even sure if this was a real show or if I had just made it up when I was a kid. I ended up having to search for a few months before I finally found it once again, and some of my sanity was restored. But here's the million-dollar question. Was all that effort worth it? Was this show actually as good as my child brain remembered? I'm happy to say that the answer to that question is yes. The Modifiers is a pilot created by husband and wife duo Chris Riccardi and Lynn Naylor. It stars Mae Whitman of Avatar: The Last Airbender fame, Paul Rugg, best known as the voice of Freakazoid, and Jeff Bennett, who provided the voice of Johnny Bravo. The pilot focuses on a government agent named Zero and her robot companion Mole, as they attempt to thwart the evil schemes of various villains of the week. Now I'll be honest, this show had me from the word go because it's about spies. And spy stuff is like my favorite stuff. To add to the good pile, this cartoon actually has the spy character do espionage, and of course it's over-the-top and ridiculous espionage, which is what you'd want from this type of show anyways. But I do think it's really funny how much spy media never has the titular spy do any spying. Oh, and of course it's also pretty cool to have the lead character be a nice person who wants to help people, and not a misogynistic psychopath.
What are they?
I don't know what you mean.
Liar.
The first thing that'll jump out to you about this show right away is the wonderfully unique setting. The show takes place in a sort of grimdark meets steampunk city that I personally found to be really, really cool. Even though this type of world is almost always portrayed as bleak and dystopian, The Modifiers manages to make its polluted, grimy setting cheerful in what I can only describe as a media magic trick. There's never even 1 second of this show that's grim or serious, and so the fact that they were able to pull that off is insanely impressive to me. But that's just the grimdark side of things. The steampunk aspect of this show is every bit as impressive and unique in its own right. All the technology in this cartoon is some kind of early 19th century tech that's made slightly futuristic, and so it kind of blurs the line of past and future, which is, after all, of course, exactly what you'd want from steampunk. Even aside from the technology, though, the entire world has that same feel of melding the past and the future. The architecture is very 1800s, but it's filled with modern technology like lasers and computers. I love that they go so far as to make the alarm system for the museum a bugle horn just to add to the visual flair. But the world itself is only one very small portion of the goodness of the Modifiers, because to be honest with you, there's not a single aspect of this pilot that I don't like. But there can't be a great show without great characters, so let's take a look at our cast. It shouldn't take long, there's literally only 4 characters in the entire show. Our main protagonist is Agent Zero, voiced by Mae Whitman. Zero is a member of some kind of secretive organization that gathers intel on various supervillains to help the government take them down. She disguises herself as Lacey Shadows, a member of the criminal underground, in order to get info on their schemes, hence the name, The Modifiers. I really love the fact that the show didn't shy away from giving their main protagonist definitive flaws, which is something that even some of my favorite shows can't say about themselves. Because even though Zero is a wide-eyed optimist and has a kinetic energy about her, She's impulsive and often acts without thinking. Now, it's not to the point that you hate her, it's just enough to keep her from being a perfect angel without flaw. In terms of her characterization within the story, I was also really impressed with just how much they were able to flesh this character out and give her some intrigue and motivation for as little screen time as she has. I mean, this whole episode is only about 12 minutes in total, and the amount of screen time that she gets to have actual dialogue is precious little. But they do manage to set up future motivations for her, despite the lightning speed pace of the story. I'll give you an example. So, the main MacGuffin of the plot is this thing called the All-Seeing Eye. It's an orb that can supposedly answer any question. When Zero gets a hold of it, before sending it back, she tries to ask it a question. And that question is...
All-Seeing Eye, where are my...
Even though there's a lot of different directions this could have taken in potential future episodes, I'm pretty comfortable saying that the intention was for her to say, "Where are my parents?" But that's just my interpretation, and in any case, it gives you a little mystery to chew on in regards to what she really wants. Finally, in regards to her design, I want to spotlight a couple of things. I think that for a character whose defining traits are her energetic personality and inquisitiveness, the decision to give her especially large eyes was a very clever one. And the way I see it, there's no contest here. Zero has the best hair of any character who's ever existed. I know that it doesn't make any sense, and the more that you look at her hair, the more that you'll see that it doesn't make any sense, but it's also amazing. Plus, it's very clever in terms of characterizing her because the rest of the world and the characters in the show use cool colors like green, blue, and purple, and so making Zero the only source of warm color in the show contrasts her optimism with the bleak world around her. Our second character is Mole, voiced by Jeff Bennett. Mole is Zero's robotic sidekick who serves as the straight man of sorts and acts as a moral compass for our, at times, morally questionable protagonist. There's not much to say about this guy other than he makes the straight man archetype funny in a way that you don't see too often, and despite being one note, he's still a welcome addition. The first of our two villains is a rat named Rat. Rat is voiced by Jeff Bennett and is the henchman of the pilot's main antagonist. Rat is pretty straightforward. He's a dim-witted oaf who provides 100% of the pilot's slapstick humor. A lot of the jokes center around Rat's easily foiled schemes that often result in him being hurt or maimed in some way, and it's a very welcome rhyme to the old Looney Tunes cartoons in that way. The most interesting thing to me about this character is the fact that he uses some really fun gadgets and gizmos in the show, like this weird grappling hook that's shaped like a hand and defies the laws of physics, or his backpack that turns into an airship. Our final character is the show's main antagonist, Baron Vane. He's barely in it, so there's not much to say about him other than he's hilarious. I think that the most impressive thing about this character is the fact that some of his funniest moments in the cartoon are just his bizarre, exaggerated facial expressions. Like I said, there's not much more to this guy other than him just being the very embodiment of cartoon bad guys, down to his Dracula collar and the fact that he plays a pipe organ the size of an entire room. Something I don't usually mention, but that I feel deserves its moment in the spotlight, is the soundtrack for this pilot. It does a really, really good job of giving the story a noir detective vibe, even though it's bouncy and fun. I really love the fact that they even made some of the ordinary sounds in the show into little jingles, like how Zero's ring beeping noises make a little song.
What is that ringing? Rat, what is this thing?
Ultimately, the thing that I love the most about the modifiers is the fact that it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's the most cartoony kind of cartoon. A show that just wants to entertain you while you eat your cereal before you go to school. I honestly appreciate the fact that this show isn't trying to be anything other than what it is. It's It's not trying to make you feel anything other than, wow, that was really cool. It's not very plot-heavy, and most of the show revolves around just a hero and a villain and their very simple antics. But here's the big question. Why didn't this show ever get made? And what are the latest updates with it becoming a show as of today? Well, I found a lot of different theories on various websites. Some people claim that it was rejected because it was too visually similar to My Life as a Teenage Robot. That doesn't hold much water to me, though, because they're so different visually that I don't even really see where the comparison comes from. Some other people have claimed that it was because Nickelodeon already had another project that had filled the time slot, but for the most likely accurate reason that the Modifiers was never picked up, I'd listen to the show's creator herself. According to Lynn Naylor, the real reason that Nicktoons never made the Modifiers into a full-fledged show was because they believed that shows with female protagonists were doomed to fail. And if that's honestly the real reason that they never picked this show up, then that's an incredibly stupid position to hold and a really lame reason for us never getting a full season of this show. As for the future of the Modifiers, it's really up in the air as of now, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. Apparently, Chris Riccardi and Lynn Naylor planned on reworking the Modifiers for another network, but sadly Chris died of a heart attack in 2019, and there hasn't been any updates on the progress of Lynn's reworking of the show since. I deliberately didn't go into the plot here because even though there's nothing to spoil really, I still think you should watch this episode yourself and experience it firsthand. To help you along with that, I've linked it below and you can watch it on YouTube. And of course, I strongly encourage you to do so. So now we must answer the question, is The Modifiers the best show never made? Well, I'll admit that a lot of my love for this show comes from my own subjective preferences. I mean, for as much as my channel focuses on dissecting deeper themes and subtext of cartoons, my favorite type of content is just fun, innocent popcorn fare that doesn't ask much of you. And so The Modifiers really scratches that itch, so to speak. But it's not going to blow you away with how revolutionary or deep it is, and so I suppose that I have to conclude that The Modifiers, although a great show that'll stick in your mind, is not the best show never made. So I guess we'll have to press on to find our next contender, and I hope you'll join me. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like the video if you liked it, or dislike it if you didn't like it. Subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you around soon. That's all for now.